Welcome back, students. So in our previous video, we talked about these basic rhythmic units, how we are going to be talking about time, and I understand that it is very nebulous talking about those units without putting them into the context of something, and we're going to start to do that today. So we're going to be talking about time signatures. So this is going to start giving us a little bit more of an indication as to what those values are actually referring to. Okay, and we want to understand generically what a time signature is. It's going to basically show us an x over y relationship. And this numerator, the x, is going to be the number of beats per measure. Okay, we'll talk about what a measure is later, and we'll actually practice with those. To put it shortly, it's just a way to divide the music up. You can think of it as spaces between words, only in this case you're not actually pausing on the measures. It's just a way, or sentences in a paragraph. It's just a way of dividing things up so that it's a little bit easier to look at. Okay, don't worry about measures just yet. We're going to be talking about that next time. So the numerator, this x, is the number of beats in a measure. And then our y, this is kind of the most important part, is defining the beat. Which of those rhythmic values is going to get the beat? So this is much more clear with an example. So let's look at this one. This is probably the most common time signature that you will see. Most music is written in 4/4, and I'm willing to bet most of the music that you would name if I asked you to name 10 songs is all going to be in 4/4. So what does that mean? It means that there are 4 beats per measure, and the quarter note gets the beat. Okay? So if I were to draw a measure in 4/4, it would be 1, 2, 3, 4 quarter notes. Okay, that's a measure of 4/4. So now we're starting to see that in the previous one, we didn't define what a whole was. A whole what? It's a whole beat, essentially. That's not quite the way I want to describe it, because in this case, a quarter note is a beat. And so a whole note would take up this entire measure. Okay? So it's again, we're still in the area of these things being nebulous, but as we go on, it'll be more clear. It's much more clear once you see this in full. But you kind of need the background knowledge before seeing it in full makes any sense. So bear with me on this. Okay? Let's look at another example. So here we have 3/4. Okay, so what we can see is that the top, the numerator, has changed, but the denominator is still 4. So we're going to have now 3 beats in the measure, and the quarter note is still going to get the beat. Okay? So a measure of 3/4 is going to be 1, 2, 3 quarter notes. Okay? And here's where what I was saying with the whole note being a whole beat really doesn't work. So a whole note here doesn't fit into a measure of 3/4, because a whole note, if you remember, is 4 quarter notes, and this measure only holds 3. So a whole note doesn't fit into a measure of 3/4, because there's only 3 quarter notes in each measure. Okay? We'll talk about how to show that later, but that's the basic idea here. Now, this one is totally different. We have 6/8, and following the exact same pattern, we're going to have 6 beats in the measure, and the 8th note is now going to be the beat. So we will do 1, 2, 3, it's a bit awkward drawing this way, 4, 5, 6. 6/8 notes. I don't think you could see that last one. There she is. 6/8 notes. That is one measure of 6/8. Okay? To summarize, what is important here for this lesson is this pattern up here. The numerator is the number of beats per measure. The denominator is what gets the beat. Okay? Defining our beat. Okay? In the next lesson, we're going to show a little bit more complex time signatures and what is the utility of having a piece of music in 4/4 versus 3/4.